Hi, I'm James Kwantes, editor and publisher of Resource Opportunities. And joining me today is Soroush Nazarpour, the CEO of NanoXplore, a graphene company that trades on the TSXV under GRA. Hi, Soroush. Thanks for doing this.
Hi, James. Happy to be here.
Great. So let's talk about NanoXplore, but also graphene generally. So your company IPO'd, went public in the fall of 2017. And for me, it was an idea that just kind of clicked. Like it seems like you guys are taking graphene from science experiment to real world applications and so on. So I've been covering it in the newsletter ever since. And then about a year ago, I traveled to Montreal to meet you and to tour the plant. So maybe you can tell us what's happening now and give us an overview of the company.
All right, so let me give you a bit about Nano. So we are a graphene company. For your audience that they haven't heard what's graphene, graphene is the first two-dimensional material ever discovered. It's discovered 2004, and their discoverers got the Nobel Prize 2010. So if you think about natural flake graphite as a deck of cards, graphene is a single card. So all these layers of graphene come on top of each other, and they build graphite. All right. So the natural occurring thing in the world is graphite. So what we do is we get this graphite. It's a mined product. We take the powder. We have IPs and know-hows on exfoliating graphite layer by layer and ending up with the graphene in a powder format. Now, this graphene thing is actually pretty cool. The thing about it is it has all this sort of multifunctional properties. It's more conductive than copper. It has higher thermal conductivity than any material in the world. It's flexible, it's bendable, at the same time it's extremely strong. So technically, normal additives in the world, they are either conductive additives or they are strengthening additives. The thing about graphene is just add some graphene and it brings all these properties to your final product. That's why it's unique. And this is called multifunctionality. This multifunctionality is the reason that people that they discovered graphene in University of Manchester, they got the Nobel Prize for it. Now, actually, it's a pretty interesting story how this is discovered graphene. They actually put some graphite powder on a Scotch tape, and they just taped and untaped so many times that they got to graphene in a single layer format, and they did all the analysis, and they got the Nobel Prize for it. So
Scotch tape Nobel.
The Scotch tape Nobel Prize. Conclusion of the story is you don't need to do crazy stuff to get the Nobel Prize. You just have to be innovative. Yeah. Now, yeah, the product, this material is very cool, but of course you cannot use Scotch tape for industrial production of this material. Now, all the efforts from pretty much 2006 and 2007 that really it became a bit more mainstream in the media about graphene and everything was focused on producing graphene in industrial volume at the cost that makes sense for the end users. We came in 2012, early 2012, with the idea of that we can do it, and we spent some time on it. We developed a technology that can produce graphene in large volume at low cost. All these years of efforts was to scale it up multiple times. Today, we have a facility that has a capacity of 4,000 metric tons per year of graphene powder production. And this facility stands for close to 45% of global capacity in terms of production of graphene. So
great. What was the market for how much graphene was produced like in 2020 or 2019?
The capacity is about maybe 9,000 to 10,000 tons. Globally. And globally, yeah. The real production, it's a factor of that. It's very hard to know exact amount of production, but it's probably a factor of maybe half of that amount or something like that.
Was it a challenge, like when you were starting out, to, because of all these potential uses, to narrow down what you wanted to focus on?
Yeah, so same as any startup, our commercial strategy first was like throwing tomato at the wall and see where it goes. And you try with a lot of different people, a lot of different applications, and we selected people that they care about graphene, they're innovative in their field, and tried with them at the beginning, well, of course, we didn't have the cost structure that makes sense for them to commercially buy it, but we wanted to make sure that there is a demand. So we went and worked with them and developed different type of solutions and product. And well, same as anything in the world, even though people talk about graphene, it solves all humanity's problem. In reality, it only fixed a few. So, we found, especially our product, that we have some, advantages in automotive applications, in transportation applications, of course, in industrial and outdoor product, when sun is a deteriorating factor for some products, electronic packaging, consumer packaging for non-food, especially on the sustainability side and on the recycled plastic side. These are the type of applications that we had success, and they are pretty much building our main commercial success here.
Okay. Now, so Soroush, when I Google your name, there's not too many results. So can we dive into a little bit, pre NanoXplore, like who is Soroush Nazarpour?
So I don't know if it's a good thing or it's a bad thing. I've personally, we are pretty quiet in terms of what we do, and we try to do more than talk more, and that's what you see also in Nano, in all my previous businesses. But historically, going back to my background, so I have engineering background on material science and engineering, master's and PhD in nanotechnology. So I got into graduate school at 18 and finished my bachelor in 22 and finished my PhD at 24. So I finished master's and PhD in about 3 to 4 years. I did it in the University of Barcelona in Spain, a great city to be there. Great place to study, actually.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite cities in Europe.
One of the best cities out there. It's pretty fun, great weather, nobody works, labs are always empty, everybody drinks. It's perfect. So that was my education background, but at the same time, always in parallel to studying, I was doing businesses. So my first business at 14 years old, selling meat products door to door, and using my bikes and just going around and finding meat products before they go rotten in the stores, and before they expire pretty much, and just getting them and just going door to door and selling them. So I mean, we call it a business, but for 14 years old, it was a good business. We're having a few bikers around me afterwards in the summer, and that was pretty much sold to another biker. Our currency then was watches. We were giving watches.
Oh, yeah?
Watches, get the meat and going there.
And where was that?
So I grew up in Iran
Okay.
until 22. So that was pretty much what we were doing, what I was doing in Iran. And then about 17 years old-ish, I started with a friend of mine. We started a marketing company, and it was for different stuff, but particularly food and food on, let's say, buses, marketing, advertising, those kind of stuff, service business. This became a pretty big company in comparison. And when I was 27 years old, I sold this business to my co-founder. We never raised a dime. And when I was selling the business, we had, north of 2 million annual sales. Back in Iran, it's quite a lot of money considering the FX. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, the business had maybe more than 50 people working there. So it was good. And in the meantime, also with another friend, I started working on a startup thing on tech transfers to different type of companies out there. So finding technologies in the schools and trying to evaluate them and finding the good ones and selling it to different companies that can benefit from those technologies. And pretty much we sold one patent, and the second one, before selling it, the same buyer of the first patent just bought the whole business, which was a very large size petrochemical company. So yeah, I've been involved with starting businesses. This is my fourth one. NanoXplore is the fourth one, but all the last three were service type companies. This is the first manufacturing. This is the first one is related to what I studied. The previous one was just different stuffs. have been involved with business from 14 years old and after.
Now, I remember when I visited you there, we were chatting, you mentioned that you initially developed the graphene for a different company.
Yeah, so when I started Nano, pretty much I quit my job. I came to Canada in 2010. I worked for almost a year and ish for an institute related to National Research Council, and I quit my job. I kind of think that they were almost firing me, so I quit it before, and I came back home. I said to my wife, like, we're starting a business. She said, okay, cool. About what? And I totally had no clue, but I knew, okay, this is my fourth one. I got to do something. I started with an idea of a lab for hire. So I ended up going out and buying lab equipments from eBay, and they were not really working, and fixing those lab equipments and then selling them back on eBay. After sometimes I purchased a few of the machines that good price, but it was tough to sell them. So I said, okay, let's use these machines, and that was good machines to do testing and analytical services for other companies, technically supporting the QC and those things. And that was, the first year of NanoXplore. It was a lab for hire, doing different type of services and lab services for several clients. One of those was a company that asked us to develop something on graphene. And, we were at the point that they were saying yes to all customers. So we said, fine, we will figure it out. We'll make graphene in large volume and everything. We had no contract or anything. But after sometimes when we have everything figured out, we understood the company is no more in business. So we're kind of like ending up with a kind of like a graphene technology in terms of production. And we had no customers. Said, oh, well, right now we're in the graphene business. So we took that and then it started to grow and grow and grow. And that's what is NanoXplore today.
600 million market cap.
Yeah, I mean, I love to tell you good stories like from the childhood. I wanted to do graphene business, but the reality is,
yeah, life's like that sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So you did. So Martin Ray is a big shareholder, and they ordered the fuel and brake lines. So, and you've got some existing quite large clients. Can you touch on that at all?
Yeah, so well, we recently published our AIF. At least I can say a little bit more about the stuff that we're doing. So in transportation side, following the acquisitions that we did in the last few years as well, it gave us the foothold in pretty much commercial vehicle market, like Volvo and Paccar. They are our largest customers currently. Now, these customers, when we acquired the company, it was 100% composite. There was no graphene product in them. So our target was acquiring those companies and slowly introduce graphene in their product lines. The idea was to go down the chain, get to the OEMs, because then the final buyer of the product is actually the OEM. So if we get the OEM to be convinced and happy about using graphene, the chain will be adopted, and they will change and they will accept graphene. In the normal circumstances, when you don't do it like a kind of organically going chain, part of the supply chain and go through them, normally it takes 20-30 years. So you got to get to step by step getting to the OEMs, and they have to then change the supply chain to accept graphene. We said, well, we don't want to wait for 20-30 years. What we did was we acquired these companies, and we became certified supplier to Paccar, Volvo, and many other OEMs now. And that gave us the chance to really show them products that benefit from graphene. Because when you go to customers, show them some powder, it has no meaning, right? But when you show them even a pellet, which is a mixed graphene with a plastic, it's still, they get it, but it has no meaning for them. But when you show a bumper that's actually comparable or even better than a bumper they're already buying, so, okay, the procurement is quickly engaged. It's not anymore R&D and validation or anything. This product is ready. We technically absorb all this development costs by ourselves to accelerate the adoption of graphene. Now, So through these acquired companies, we have exposure to the transportation market. We have shown some of those products as well in our investor presentation on our website. I mean, we showed the bumper, for instance, which the SMC molded hood. Sorry, a hood we showed. It's the SMC molded hood. And we talk about what graphene does, like improves the surface qualities, it improves the strength, it can reduce the weight, can reduce the cost of material. So how we showed how graphene can actually come, improve the product, make it more sustainable, and also reduce the cost for the end user. So this is the complete business case, right? We go through this. Now we have this type of products directly outside of the acquisitions. We have Martin-Ray products, which a lot of different products we're working on. But one of them, which is commercialized, is these fuel lines and brake lines. Now, brake lines, of course, covers the EVs as well. So it covers both of them. But before Martin-Ray, we started selling to the OEM directly for interior applications. And we see pretty, say, strong interest for under the hood applications too. And that's what we're working with OEMs directly and also through Martin-Ray. But that's pretty much the type of activities we have in transportation.
Okay. Well, let's go. That's a good sort of segue into the battery technology. You know, everybody loves talking about Tesla and battery, you know, the accelerating battery technology, the changes and so on. So tell me what you're doing on that front, Soroush. And you've been working on that for a while, right?
Yeah, more than 5 years now. So the work we did on the battery, it's the basic thinking behind it was there has to be a balance between cathode and sends the lithium out pretty much, anode accepts the lithium and vice versa. Each time the lithium goes back and forth, there's some charge, and that's how the battery charges and discharges, right? That's the concept of a battery. Now, just making a cathode super better while your anode is not good, it doesn't necessarily make your battery better because the system is not functioning better. So a lot of activities on the cathode side has been for the last 10 years, lots of thinking, you know, different type of NMC, NCA, LFP, different chemistries and stuff. But on the anode side, it's been always graphite, you know, and people are, you know, they think it's always graphite. But then if you need a better capacity in your anode, and if your anode chemistry is not capable, the only way is to just make it thicker, and then there's a lot of other problems also come. So our idea was, maybe we can make the anode better. And when we look at the charts in terms of performances, in terms of energy density of the materials, actually carbon/graphite is very low in the list. You know, number one is actually silicon and lithium. So these two materials, they are technically more than 10 times better than the carbon in terms of accepting lithium. So it's natural to look into these materials. Lithium, it's very tough to deal with because, you know, it has to be done in an environment that is, there's no oxygen, for instance, and it's very hard to commercialize that. So to us, chance of getting lithium in the anode, it's a bit low, at least today. It's going to be done probably 20, 30 years from now, but not today. But then silicon, it looks like a very reasonable choice. So that's what we did. We start to focus on using silicon as anode. And but there's a challenge with the silicon. The challenge of silicon is each time we do charging and discharging, it goes through a volume expansion. It's called breathing effect. It actually increases the volume by 3 times. Imagine your anode is like now suddenly 3 times thicker. No, it results into mechanical breakdown of the cell. And that's the big problem in the silicon, and that's why we don't see it much. You know, we see now recently up to 3 to 7% of silicon in the anodes by Tesla, Panasonic, and Samsung. But this has been also recently. Now, there is a chance to go higher in terms of silicon content, right? To go higher in terms of silicon content, it means that we can get a better anode, but you got to figure out a way that your lifetime of the battery is not limited. Because if it starts to charge and discharge, it expands and contracts. Each time this happens, pretty much the anode dismantles and it shatters into pieces, right? When it happens, your anode is not functional anymore, the anode is not active anymore, the battery dies. So our work was using graphene to, concept is this, provide and protect the silicon and provide some sort of a physical net around silicon, prevents it from volume expansion. There are a lot of different types of mechanisms to protect silicon, at least theoretically, but our technology uses graphene and also a bunch of other things around it to reduce the expansion and make the silicon functional for the anodes. Silicon is a lot cheaper and is a lot more abundant than graphite. So finding a solution, it can get quickly market share.
So some people, that kind of ties into, so your share price was kind of a little bit flat, like, the last couple of years. But then, like last fall with Elon Musk's battery day, that seemed to be kind of a catalyst. Now, some people think Tesla might be working on, based on some of the things he said, might also be working on a graphene battery solution.
Right. So back to the battery day. What I can say is, like we were talking about how silicon is better than graphite and why this can be the future. Though Canadian jurisdictions, lots of graphite deposits, graphite people, so it's hard for people to say, well, suddenly the only growing part of the graphite future is actually the EV, and now it's not going to be there, right? So there is a tendency for people say, well, what do you know about the battery, right? It changed when the battery day happened. I remember that night I was watching it. These are the type of events that, these guys are doing, Tesla folks are doing absolutely phenomenal job when it comes to the battery. They're really the pioneers. They're really technically, they give you the directions of where the world going. And when they were saying some of the stuff we were saying that night, I received a lot of emails like, well, and after all, you were not wrong, all right? Or other words. So that quickly impacted on our share price. And I remember that the day after that, that we started to get huge volume on our OTC trading, and then it's suddenly like we are being seen now. Again, our concept, personally, what I do is long terms, never short term, regardless of what I do. So in Nano, even though the stock might be flat and then jump, it doesn't matter after all, because we're creating value, and our shareholders, they want me to continue creating value than a short-term thing. So it doesn't really change anything for my shareholder, but it brought a lot of outside interest. We have very small retail ownership in the company. The amount of retail interest suddenly just jumped, and now everyone had a lot of questions, and they want to see some of those questions that you ask. And what I can say is, the future of the anodes are silicon, no doubt. It's just, especially today, after a few years, technology really got to the level that silicon is very important. As solid state is extremely important, it's definitely going to be the next 10 years. You will see solid state type batteries out there, and these are the holy grail of the batteries today, actually. But we really believe silicon is getting there. Now, Musk said it, that silicon is getting there. So I guess people now believe it much better. But also Musk said a few other things like dry electrode processing technology. And that's also another thing that, we discussed a little bit in our annual information form. That's also some of the things we're doing. We also believe that we have to remove solvents from the manufacturing of the batteries. And dry manufacturing, it extensively reduces the cost and complexity of production of the batteries. As well, it reduces significantly the footprint of those gigafactories. And less footprint means cheaper. And gigafactories are very expensive. It's like every gigawatt hour is costing capex about $100 million. So reducing the size means the building is smaller, means less equipment you need. You don't need any more of these big storage tanks. Logistics is easier because there's a lot of consumer of solvents in the process. It's actually not very environmentally friendly when production of the battery, which was all the point of doing the battery.
Right.
So all these solvents, which technically kills all the fishes out there, there's a ton of now the solvent extraction technology needs to be done to take it back and build again solvent out of it, just increase the complexity a lot. Solid state doesn't have those things. And well, a full solid state battery doesn't have those things. So I guess that the trend of the technology on the battery is toward having, let's say, better anodes and cathodes. Cathodes are very mature really in comparison. Anode, you will see silicon, maybe 10, 15 years, you will see lithium, and also no solvent, dry manufacturing. So these are the trends of the battery out there.
Okay. And you're working on a pilot, getting a pilot plant going, right? For graphene on the anode?
Yeah, so we want to really build a few 18650 cells. Just making sure that, we did a lot of coin cells, but coin cells is like you're doing things in the lab. It's all easy in comparison to larger scale production. So we need to build 18650, which are cylindrical cells, pretty much what is in the Tesla car, for instance. And by having a bunch of 18650 and confirming the performance in real world conditions, then we can really stand behind a technology which is actually commercializable, not just a cool technology.
You touched on the sort of sustainability, and so what can you talk quickly about the plastics? Like graphene has implications for sort of better plastics too, right?
A good part of nano business, I know everyone likes batteries, but we have also industrial part of our business that's actually going. So we are not really a zero or hero type business because of the battery. We have also battery plus our our cash flow business as well, which is
right,
composites and plastics. Now, one of the trends that's pretty much a tailwind for us is sustainability. Now, we know that plastics are bad, right? But nobody gonna stop them. People want to reuse them and recycle them. So as much more we reuse them and recycle them, they become more sustainable. And that's what we're working with different companies. The graphene has a very cool thing here. Graphene enables reusing plastics and increases the lifetime of the plastics. Now, today, regulatory pressures are on plastic formers to manage the lifetime of their product. So circular economy, they're responsible producing, for a pipe guy is responsible producing the pipe, putting the pipe in the ground, and also when 30, 40 years finish, take that pipe back and reuse it for a new pipe. Now, normal plastics, when you go through reusing and recycling, performance drops and you cannot use them for the same applications. For instance, if it's a bumper and you have an accident, you want to reuse the bumper, it's not easy to make another bumper out of that. So you need to always mix the virgin plastic with the recycled plastics to bring the performance up. Holy grail is to have 100% recycled plastics in the product and do it again and again for the same application. This is tough to do. Graphene is an additive that protects plastics from, they call it oxidation, or let's call it deterioration, each time you're doing reusing and recycling. Also increase the performance. So we press released that we are able to pretty much maintain the performance by 6 times of reusing, while normal plastic without graphene, after they only reused once, and the second time they have to go to landfill, right? So that's a very useful graphene applications. It's getting a lot of interest from let's say consumer packaging companies, and they are we're working with them to get this product to the market.
Yeah, the war on plastics is coming, so it seems like that you guys can make a real difference there. Okay, so I mean, what business line excites you the most, and kind of, I guess, where do you see NanoXplore, say, in 10 years, Soroush?
Well, we have to consider that graphene, it's way more than a material. It's a platform technology. Now, the fact that we can make graphene in large volume at the cost that is really, really, really cheap, and it's pretty much in line with all the other commodity additives, even though you have a graphene, which it's an innovative material, it means it's short-sighting to only think we gotta build some graphene plants and sell it. And this is not really, we're not really benefiting from all the work we did. So our work is to, our idea and strategy is to get a bit more downstream in some of the applications and capture a bit more profit in the chain, right? So on composites and plastics, we're doing that. And with the acquisition, we're doing more acquisitions. Hopefully in the future, we're doing more of the battery activities, and that's just something that hopefully we'll talk more about it also in 2021. These two are going to be pretty much the core of the business in the next 5 to 10 years. Now, these are big markets. We're not going to be able to go after everything, but we will definitely select a few of those applications, especially when it comes to transportation. We like to be a lot more involved. For other applications that graphene can do in the future, we will act as a material supplier. So we like the graphene market to really grow, and we're supporting it. We're supporting certification standards. In Europe, we are actually leading the REACH consortia, which is REACH is it's the certification required for the chemicals to enter Europe. Even though we're not really in Europe, but we're actually leading that consortium. We have all the permits and health certifications from Health Canada. EPA is something that it's very close for us to get. And this, we're building everything. You know, we are also supporting the governments to regulate graphene and to bring it. We like the market to grow. And if it grows, we will really benefit from that.
Mm-hmm.